Hello students, welcome to Science and Tech series with Dr. Vivek Rana. So this is the third lecture in our Prelims cruise series in Science and Tech category. We started with space theme, then we moved to defense. Today it's a day of, you could say, medicine and health section. Every year we see there is one question which is definitely asked from the biology or medicine theme, and typically more or less focus on diseases in news. So 2024 to 2025 phase was no different. There were a lot of diseases which made headlines or created scare, but nevertheless health authorities were more on their cautious foot and they were able to overcome all such difficulties. So the three diseases which we are going to cover in today's lecture are going to be in quick revision mode. I'll be just highlighting what exactly are the key themes you need to cover when some disease is in news, so that it can help you in brushing up your knowledge about the science or diseases in news. So some diseases were in news for positive reasons, while some, as usual, were a headache for policy makers and administrators as well. So the first disease which we are taking up today is Kala-azar. As you could see on your screen, there is an insect which has been displayed, and in this particular disease, we have been targeting it right from the last health policy which was announced in 2017. The initial target to eliminate this disease was 2017 itself, but we are now reached to 2025, and finally there are chances that we might get the WHO certification of that this disease has finally been eliminated from India. Now, whenever some disease is being in news and they are hovering that this disease will be eliminated from particular country or a region, you should be clear in your mind when exactly this terminology is used, when there are less than one case out of 10,000 population sample size for 2 consecutive years. So finally, since India has the largest population, overall cases have dramatically decreased in last few years. In 2020, you could say three phase, there were almost 540 cases which have been brought down to almost 300 odd ones in 2024. So hopefully in 2025, this number is expected to fall further down. There was only one casualty in whole year in 2024. So there are bright chances that by the time of prelims, there can be a positive news that India has finally eliminated Kala-azar from its segment. So whenever such disease are in news, first of all, you should be clear what are the other names of that typical disease. So Kala-azar, as you can say in local language, it is been pronounced in Hindi, but in English it is called black fever. In science, this disease is referred as visceral leishmaniasis. So quite a technical name. If you are not from bio background, this might complicate things, but there is no harm in mugging up the other common English names, like it is also known as dum-dum fever as well. Now, coming to the causative agent, we all know there are four major villains which typically cause infectious diseases in humans. They can be bacteria, virus, protozoa, or fungi. So, this particular disease belong to realm of the protozoan diseases. Just like malaria is caused by plasmodium, this particular disease is associated with Leishmania donovani, a protozoan parasite which becomes problematic once it enters our human body. Even though, since it's a small single cell organism, eukaryote, it is not easy to detect or target it. So that's why strategies are more or less directed towards the vector. Now in science, vector is an organism which directs potential causative agent to host. In this particular case, the host are humans, whereas the vector is the part which you have to mug up from Plim's point of view. Most of the times in protozoan diseases, it is the female Anopheles which becomes the villain. But in this particular disease, as you could see, this is not a female Anopheles or mosquito. It is a peculiar insect found in tropical regions, especially in rural areas where there are kacha houses, or you could say wooden houses. This is called female sandfly insect. So the sandfly insect is the main reason through which a causative agent like Leishmania donovani enters the human body and causes the problem. So make sure when you are going through this disease, you are absolutely clear about the vector part and causative, because at times they might get interchange. Now coming to the symptoms or what are the problems faced by individual in this the disease, it is characterized by drastic weight loss, and mainly liver and spleen are the organs which are affected. There is a specific enlargement of spleen, and if it left untreated, this particular disease, if you are not resorting to the specific treatment, there is every possibility of even death. There was a time when fatality rate was considered almost as high as 90%. So currently there is no specific or major vaccine which can prevent this disease. So we can say the basic hygiene sanitation measures to check the spread of sand fly and to take basic precautionary measures is the only way out. So we can say it could be a major health stone, almost on lines of the polio milestone which we had some time back. Even though this year also trachoma and other diseases, guinea worm, are some of the diseases which India has eliminated over the recent years. So make sure while decoding this topic, and especially when it gets actually eliminated, this is a potential theme which might be asked. So no harm in just going through the causative treatment, prevention, basic diagnostic part of this disease. So this was the first disease which you ideally must go through from the biology current affair section. Now coming to the second disease, this is once again a disease which finds mention even in Punjab civil service examination, because some of you who are watching this video might be targeting PCS prelims as well, because when you go through syllabus, PCS has specifically mentioned 3-4 diseases: tuberculosis, AIDS, leprosy, malaria. So this is one of the conventional disease which is time and again asked in different competitive examinations. So once again, if you have to, the pattern will remain same. The other name of this disease is Hansen's disease, named after a scientist who researched on this disease initially. It's also mentioned in, you could say, in the slide part, if you could slightly see in the section. And the main part in this is the causative agent once again. So you must be able to decode whether this particular disease is caused by bacteria or virus. So if you have gone through TB, it's almost the similar causative agent which you would see on your screen. It is caused by a bacteria named Mycobacterium leprae, as you could see on your screen. If you are not from bio background, there is no harm in mugging up this word, because this technical word will not only help you in memorizing the leprosy causative agent, when you are preparing TB as a topic, tuberculosis, then also there is the same family, Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So make sure you are able to do justice to this factual theme. Now once again, why we are highlighting leprosy as a topic, because there is a good news. Jordan has become the first country in the world to officially be declared by WHO that it has eliminated the disease. It was long pending because almost it has been 2 decades. The last, you could say, documented case was reported from that country, and it comes no surprise whenever some disease of such scale are to be eliminated, the such news come from more or less the small, you could say, countries, because geographically if you are a large country, it's not possible to eliminate disease with some basic protocols. But it is a positive news nevertheless, because Indian health policy of 2017 had also mentioned one of the targets at eliminating leprosy by 2018. We are still quite far away, but progress has been steady one, and there has been once again drastic decline in leprosy reported cases in last, you could say, few years. So hopefully we will also achieve this milestone sooner or later. Now, once again, in this particular part, there are no vector or no animal reservoirs. So make sure you not get carried away every time painting mosquitoes, or you could say sand flies as villain in this case. And the most important part is that this disease has social stigma attached to it, because at times the person who is suffering from this disease is orchestrated from the society. In medieval, or you could say modern times as well, there were so many reported cases where the person who used to get leprosy was just abandoned by family as well as relative, and there used to be other colonies. Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi are some of the personalities who work for their upliftment and to remove that social stigma, because these mycobacterium species are notorious for being capable of transmitting disease in initial phase. So that's where the risk factor comes into the picture. And the most peculiar sign, or you put the question asked in leprosy, is what are the system of body which are primarily affected. So even though the visible signs are of, you could say, the you could say disfigurement of skin, mucous membrane of upper and lower limbs or the face, but typically this disease starts by affecting your peripheral nerves. There will be loss of sensation. Even someone is picking a pin on your finger or toes, you will not be able to feel sensation. And over a period of time, then after peripheral nerves are affected, nervous system is involved, there will be disfigurement of skin and mucous membrane. So make sure you just have a quick revision of your nervous system basics as well, because this disease is linked to nervous system. Like the TB is linked to respiratory system, this is one of the disease which is primarily associated with peripheral nervous system. Yes, there is a vaccine available about this disease. It is called MIP vaccine, Mycobacterium indicus prani. So this is a quite technical name. It is still in experimental stages, yet word has to adopt it in toto. But nevertheless, if there is a statement and it's mentioning MIP, so make sure you are capable enough of associating with this disease. And we can say the long antibiotic treatment is the only way forward, because it's a bacterial disease. You could get some symptomatic relief nevertheless. So government is running lot of campaigns to eliminate this dreaded disease. In local language it is called code, and you should be familiar about the diagnosis and treatment part as well. So this is the second disease, and once again, India might be able to has been able to contain its spread, but still there is a long way to go before we officially declared this disease to be eliminated. Coming to the third disease, once again an important one, even though the name sounds that it's not a headache or problem for India, African swine fever. Now this disease can easily get confused with African swine flu. So make sure you are able to differentiate African swine flu and African swine fever. Swine flu, as you is more or less related to the same group of family which made headlines like avian flu or the common flu influenza, which we call. In such diseases, it's the respiratory system which is affected. These all such diseases are primarily caused by riboviruses, these conventional flu ones, and typically they have a tendency to be transmitted from one person to another through droplet infection. So make sure when you start this topic, first have a quick revision of common influenza or common cold, then of avian influenza and swine flu, because swine flu question was asked some years back in UPSC. They just had asked the positive agent. You can say the swine flu is caused by H1N1 virus. These bird flu are caused by H3N8, H3.5. So there are 18 permutation combinations which are possible, because even in 2024, 2025, there were a lot of avian influenza outbreaks reported globally as well as in India. So make sure you are able to just have a fair idea about these flu symptoms. And more recently, we have seen HMPV outbreak in China, which also created a similar scare like COVID-19, but it was quite successfully managed. So there is a very less tendency of HMPV being asked in this year's prelims. There was still no harm in going through the basic, you could say, signs and symptoms of that disease as well. So this in this particular disease, why it has been named African swine fever, because this disease was officially first reported in Africa only, and swine word literally means pigs. So this disease more or less is related directly to pigs part, and the important part to be noted which makes it differentiate from the swine flu is that it is not zoonotic in nature. Now, zoonotic diseases are the diseases which are transmitted from humans to animals or vice versa. But in case of swine fever, this disease has still to be reported in human beings. So it primarily affects the pigs. So you can say if someone is working in pig farm and is earning to selling pork products or ham, so they would have economic loss whenever such outbreak is reported. So this year also in COVID time, this disease made headlines for its outbreak in you could say Arunachal and Assam. It was more likely the strain entered from China this year, but the isolated cases were reported in Kottayam district in Kerala, and once again they were able to contain it time. Now, the problematic part about African swine fever, once again, it has high fatality rate. So basically, any pig which catches this disease by direct contact or to saliva or through any other secretion, more or less is likely to die because it has a fatality rate of over 80%. And another negative impact point is there is no vaccine or treatment still available, because we have seen neglected tropical diseases over and again painted by media. There are a lot of diseases which primarily occur in Africa. So you could say Western or the developed world rarely invest its resources to make a standard treatment for such diseases. So this disease remains ignored as of now by treatment, because still the human angle is far off. There is no documented case of African swine fever being transmitted to humans as of. In case of swine flu, since transmission was taking place, we see there is a popular medicine called Tamiflu, as well as more and more medicines rolling out to contain that disease. So we can say this disease made headlines, and you should be clear about the reservoir agenda part. And in this case, at times the ticks are also linked. They might transmit from one pig to another. So these were three diseases in a nutshell. We tried to just focus on their prelim aspect, because in mains, generally such diseases never ask. There is never a dedicated question on a single disease. They broadly ask what you will do where is an outbreak of a vector-borne disease or a sexually transmitted disease or a communicable disease which find it spread through droplet infection. So make sure from the case study point of view or the management part, that's a separate lecture that we will record during main stage. For the time being, our main focus was to have a quick overview of diseases and make sure if there are some other diseases which made headlines, you just follow the basic pattern. You should be clear about the causative agent, whether it's a zoonotic disease, whether what is the main part of body which is primarily being affected, the basic biology of that organ and structure, and then coming to the diagnosis part, treatment, vaccination, and the global spread or outbreak part, because at times we see the terms like endemic disease, pandemic, or you could say epidemic. So you should have a fair clarity about the basic terminologies. Because why UPSC is so obsessed with such section, because as an administrator you should be aware about the health exigencies, and overall it is a at times a situation escalates, it could be a disaster in making. So you should be able to coordinate well with health authorities, even though this topic is primarily catered by the health authorities, which are quite specialist in tackling such outbreaks year after year. So this is what we had in our third lecture, disease in news, which you can say is a biology current affair part. So the fourth part, we will be focusing on the biotech and emerging technologies part. So stay tuned, keep watching. If you have any specific query regarding this particular disease part, feel free to ask them in comment section. We will get back to you soon. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.